If you're a heat and air technician or even a salesperson, what are 3 management games that you want no part of, and why does this matter? This is a super important question. I'm Scott Sylvan Bell. I'm coming to you live for HVAC Technician Sales Secrets on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. And so, here's the thing. At some point, you're going to get a manager that's going to come to you, and they're going to have a conversation with you, and they're going to want you to pick a side. They're going to want you to pick a team. They're going to want you to say, hey, this group of faction of people is going up against that group of faction of people, and here's all the cool things that I'm willing to do for you. I'm willing to, not put you on calls at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You only are going to have to work every other weekend. Realize what you're up against. That's a quid pro quo. And they're saying, if you do these things, I'll take care of you. But on the other hand, if you don't do these things, then I'm going to put you on crappy leads, crappy calls, all the things that go along with it. So you have to be aware of games that are played inside of management, because this does happen. The bigger the management team, the more games that are typically played. That is just the nature of the beast. Number 2, off the record meetings either way, right? If an owner comes to you and says, hey, I need to know what's going on, right? That might be a little bit different than a management person or a supervisor, because typically when that happens, hardly anything ever good comes from it. Off the record meetings, to me, anytime that somebody says I want an off the record meeting, I'm like, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a journalist. Why do we want an off the record meeting, right? If you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to tell you my answer, and I'm going to say what's going on. Inside of organizations, sometimes people will say when I go to train, hey, can we have an off the record conversation? I'm like, well, why does it need to be off the record? Right? That should be the first question for me. Like, does this really need to be off the record? What are we protecting here? Do I need to have HR involved? And so be aware that sometimes, like, this could be a trap. They could be setting you up and putting information out into the universe, and you are the only person that's been talked to, and then you go and talk to a couple of friends, and because this does happen, and then they're like, gotcha. And this is why you should join HVAC Tech Secrets. I'll give you the goods, not in the Facebook group, not in the YouTube channel. Number 3, tell me what you think of XYZ manager. Right? There's going to be a point, and if this is an owner, it's a different story, okay? But if somebody comes to you as a manager and says, tell me what you think of this other manager, like, you're getting set up for big drama. Big drama. That's a big giant game that you don't want to be a part of, because at the end of the day, you're now picking sides. And that information, at some point, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, probably next month or the month after, it's going to get back to them. And then I want to give you a bonus number 4. I know of a situation where a manager went to an employee, longtime employee, and said, how would you fix this company? And the employee dished the dirt and said, I would fix the company by doing X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, ABC, and spilled the dirt. And here's what happened. That manager went to the owner and said, hey, the way that I see everything going down, here's my list of things that I would do to help this organization grow, and totally pulled the rug out from underneath the person that they got this information from. And so the person that gave up the information was in a position to take over a position, and then manager came in and said, what would you do to fix it? And then went straight to ownership, marched to ownership, and said, here's what I would do to fix your company. And ownership said, oh, you're super smart. I don't know how you caught on to these things. And the person who came up with the ideas just got the smackdown on them. And at the end of the day, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, right? Because, like, how are you going to prove it now? So there's 4 things that you need to know and that you need to be aware of, especially the bigger a company gets. 1 is going to be picking a side battles. 2 is going to be off the record meetings. 3 is tell me what you think of XYZ manager. Now, if an owner is asking you that, it's a completely different story as a reminder. And then the bonus number 4 is, what would you do to fix this company? How would you fix this company? Right? Like, maybe give them 1 or 2 small things, but like, if you're like, hey, here's the outline, this is what I would ask. I would say that's an interesting question. Here's what I would like to do. I would like to send you an email and document these things in email, and, make sure that you have the information that's proper, because then that way, at least you have a paper trail of saying, here's the ideas that I came up with. And so if the person comes back that asks you that question and says, no, can you tell me right now? It's a sign from the universe, like, it's a sign from the universe that they were probably going to take that information and use it for nefarious reasons and say that they were the ones that thought of it, and maybe give you credit for 1, 2, maybe 3 things. Okay. I've had this happen to me. I've had this happen to me where somebody says, hey, how would you solve this? How would you fix this? And then I come up with a game plan, and I'm then in a management meeting and they're like, hey, here's Jim. And Jim is saying, here's all the things to get done. I'm like, that's my plan. And then Jim says that this needs to get done. I'm like, that's my plan too. And Jim says this needs to get done, right? I've got no problem in a meeting being like, time out. We had an off the record conversation and now you're trying to say that that's yours, right? Like, you do have to stand up for yourself. Like, I'm not playing these shenanigans. I'm not in the grade school, you know. I will come back and say, here's what's going on. You only have so much relational capital inside of a management team. You only have so many things that you can work with, and then you got to deal with it another way. Just saying, right? You got 1 or 2 things to do from here. Just 1 or 2. Find the subscribe button, click on it. Every time I send out a video, you'll get an update, or hit follow. We'll see you soon.